The Dark Intellect, unveiling the genius behind infamous crimes. Delve into the enigmatic minds of history's most notorious criminals, where exceptional intelligence meets unfathomable malevolence. This video unveils the stories of 10 individuals whose extraordinary intellects fueled some of the most sinister chapters in criminal history, providing a chilling exploration of how brilliance can be twisted into nefarious deeds. Number 1. Leopold and Loeb's murderous intellect. Nathan Frudenthal Leopold Jr. and Richard Albert Loeb, born on November 19, 1904 and June 11, 1905, respectively, were highly intelligent young men with IQs of 210 and 169. They became infamous for the murder of 14-year-old Robert Bobby Franks in Chicago in 1924. Their intellectual arrogance led them to believe they could commit the perfect crime. Leopold and Loeb, students at the University of Chicago, planned the kidnapping and murder to demonstrate their perceived intellectual superiority. On May 21, 1924, they lured Franks into a car, killed him, and then demanded ransom from his family, aiming to cover up their involvement. However, their plan unraveled when Leopold's glasses were found near the body, leading to their arrest. The trial, often called the trial of the century, was a media sensation. They were defended by renowned lawyer Clarence Darrow. In the end, they avoided the death penalty and were sentenced to life imprisonment plus 99 years. Loeb was murdered in prison in 1936, and Leopold was paroled in 1958 after serving 33 years. Their case is a chilling example of how high intelligence, devoid of empathy, can lead to heinous crimes. Number 2. Andrew Kunan, the Chameleon killer. Andrew Philip Kunan, born August 31, 1969, possessed an IQ of 147, a figure indicative of his sophisticated and manipulative intellect. Kunan's criminal notoriety peaked with the high-profile assassination of Italian fashion designer Gianni Versace in July 1997. This act was the culmination of a cross-country murder spree beginning in Minneapolis in April 1997, during which he killed 4 others, including friends and an acquaintance. Kunan's aptitude for altering his identity and appearance made him a master of evasion, complicating the efforts of law enforcement. The nationwide manhunt for Kunan ended with his suicide in a Miami houseboat just days after Versace's murder. The motives behind his series of murders remain largely unknown, and his story has been the subject of extensive media attention and analysis, cementing his place as one of the most enigmatic criminals of the late 20th century. Number 3. Edmund Kemper, the CoEd killer's intellectual bloodlust. Edmund Emil Kemper, EY, born December 18, 1948, known as the CoEd killer, had an IQ of 145. His criminal life began early with the murder of his grandparents in 1964 at age 15. After a brief institutionalization, he was released in 1969, deemed rehabilitated. Between May 1972 and April 1973, Kemper murdered 6 female college students in the Santa Cruz area, displaying extreme brutality. Kemper's heinous spree culminated with the murders of his mother, Clarnell Strandberg, and her friend, Sally Hallett, in April 1973. He turned himself in shortly thereafter. During his trial, Kemper's detailed and articulate confessions of his crimes shocked the court. But convicted of 8 counts of first-degree murder, he was sentenced to life imprisonment in 1973. Kemper's case is often studied in criminal psychology for the combination of his high intelligence and the gruesome nature of his crimes. Number 4. Charles Manson, the cult of intelligence. Charles Mills Manson, born November 12, 1934, became infamous as the leader of the Manson family cult. With an IQ of 109, Manson used his manipulative intelligence to control his followers. In August 1969, his cult committed the Tate LaBianca murders, part of Manson's delusional helter-skelter vision of a race war. The brutal killings included the murder of actress Sharon Tate, 8 months pregnant at the time. Manson was arrested in October 1969 and convicted in 1971 for first-degree murder and conspiracy, despite not physically committing the murders himself. His initial death sentence was commuted to life imprisonment in 1972 when California abolished the death penalty. Manson spent the rest of his life in prison, dying in 2017 at age 83. His legacy remains a dark testament to the dangers of charismatic intelligence used for manipulative and destructive ends. Number 5. Dr. Michael Swango, death in his prescription. Dr. Michael J. Swango, born October 21, 1954, is a former physician with an IQ of 127 who notoriously caused multiple patient deaths. During his internship at Ohio State University Hospital in 1984, several patients under his care experienced unexplained emergencies, raising initial suspicions. However, he was not charged at this time. Swango's lethal pattern continued across various medical institutions. In 1993, he was convicted for poisoning colleagues and served a brief sentence. Post-release, he falsified documents to join Stony Brook University Hospital in New York, where similar patient deaths occurred. Arrested in 1997 for fraud, investigations linked him to numerous suspicious deaths. In 2000, Swango was sentenced to life imprisonment for 3 murders. He is suspected of causing up to 60 deaths, making him one of the deadliest known medical serial killers. Number 6. The Anab Bomber's genius, Theodore Kaczynski's dark intellect. Theodore John Kaczynski, born on May 22, 1942, and famously known as the Anab Bomber, had an IQ of 167, placing him in the highest echelons of intellectual capacity. He showcased his academic brilliance early, entering Harvard at age 16 and later earning a PhD in mathematics from the University of Michigan. His tenure as a professor at the University of California, Berkeley, was brief, ending in 1969. Kaczynski's descent into criminality began in 1978, initiating a nationwide bombing campaign against people associated with modern technology. Over 17 years, he constructed and mailed bombs that led to 3 deaths and 23 injuries. His extensive anti-technology manifesto was published in 1995, a key factor leading to his capture in April 1996 in Montana. He is currently serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Number 7. H. Holmes, architect of murder. Herman Webster Mudgett, known as H. Holmes, born May 16, 1861, was a notorious American serial killer with an IQ of 145. Holmes designed the Murder Castle in Chicago, a hotel with hidden chambers and secret passages, tailored for his criminal activities during the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition. This macabre structure facilitated the trapping, killing, and disposal of his victims, many being young women visiting the fair. Holmes was arrested in 1894, initially for insurance fraud. Investigations later exposed his involvement in multiple murders. He confessed to 27 murders, but the actual number is believed to be higher. Holmes was executed in 1896, leaving behind a legacy as one of the most cunning serial killers in American history. Number 8. Alexander Pushkin, the brain behind the chessboard killings. Alexander Yuryevich Pushkin, born on April 9, 1974, and known as the chessboard killer, had an IQ of 140. His killing spree in Moscow's Bitsa Park from 1992 to 2006 was driven by a chilling goal: to fill each of the 64 squares of a chessboard with a victim. He primarily preyed on elderly homeless men, luring them with vodka, and also targeted younger individuals. Pushkin was captured in 2006 after a survivor led to his arrest. During his 2007 trial, he claimed to have killed 62 people, but was convicted for 48 murders and 3 attempted murders. He received a life sentence, including 15 years in solitary confinement. Pushkin's case is distinguished by the high number of victims and his systematic approach to murder. Number 9. Stephen McDaniel, the law student with a murderous mind. Stephen Mark McDaniel, born September 9, 1985, with an IQ of 140, was a law student at Mercer University when he committed a gruesome murder. In June 2011, he killed his neighbor, Lauren Giddings, also a law student. His meticulous planning was evident in how he executed the crime and tried to cover it up. McDaniel initially feigned ignorance, even participating in search efforts. However, evidence found in his apartment and Giddings' dismembered body discovered nearby led to his arrest. In 2014, McDaniel pled guilty to the murder and received a life sentence. His ability to mask his criminal intent with legal acumen made this case particularly disturbing. Number 10. Rodney Alcala, The Killing Game of Intelligence. Rodney James Alcala, born August 23, 1943, known as the dating game killer, had an IQ of 135. He appeared on the TV show The Dating Game in 1978 amid his serial killings. Alcala's crimes began in the late 1960s, and he was finally arrested in 1979. He was convicted for 5 murders in California between 1977 and 1979, with suspicions of many more across the U.S. Sentenced to death in 2010 for these murders, Alcala was later extradited to New York, pleading guilty to 2 more murders in 2013. His intelligence and charm, which he displayed on television, were stark contrasts to his brutal crimes, making his case one of the most chilling in criminal history.